Have you ever felt like people walk all over you, assuming you'll always say yes, never push back, and just go along with whatever they want? Like you're the easy option, the one they can take advantage of without consequences? If that sounds familiar, you're not imagining it, and you're definitely not wrong for noticing. The reality is, some people will test your patience, push your limits, and mistake your kindness for weakness. They assume you won't stand up for yourself, so they keep taking and taking, expecting you to just accept it. But here's the truth: they're only getting away with it because you let them, and that changes today. In this video, we're breaking down 7 reasons why people try to take advantage of you, and more importantly, how to turn the tables. By the end, you won't just recognize the signs, you'll know exactly how to shut them down. No more second guessing, no more getting used, and no more playing their game. It's time to take back control, set your boundaries, and make sure people think twice before trying to play you. If you're ready to stop being the easy target and start being the one they respect, let's get started. You don't set boundaries. Have you ever felt like people keep overstepping using your time and energy without considering how it affects you? That's because they see no limits. They assume you'll always say yes, never push back, and just go along with whatever they want. The truth is, when you don't set boundaries, you send a silent message that your needs don't matter. And that's exactly why some people take advantage of you. But here's something important to remember: boundaries aren't barriers to keep people out, they are guidelines that show others how to treat you. When you don't make those expectations clear, others will keep pushing until you feel drained, frustrated, and undervalued. Saying no isn't selfish, it's necessary. It's how you protect your time, energy, and well being. Think of boundaries like a garden fence. Without it, anyone can walk in, step on your flowers, or even take what they want without asking. But when you set up a fence, that space becomes sacred. Only those who respect you will be allowed in, and they'll appreciate what you've built rather than take it for granted. It starts with small steps. Say no to the people who only take and never give. Say no to commitments that exhaust you. Say no to situations that make you uncomfortable. Over time, you'll realize that the right people will respect your limits, while the wrong ones will try to make you feel guilty for having them. You are not responsible for how others react to your boundaries. Your only responsibility is to honor yourself and build a life where you are respected, valued, and free to grow. The moment you set boundaries, you take back control. You're too trusting. Trust is one of the most valuable things you can give someone. It's what builds strong relationships, makes us feel safe, and brings people closer together. But trust, when placed in the wrong hands, can also be a weapon used against you. Imagine meeting someone new who seems kind and reliable. They always say the right things, make you feel special, and seem like a true friend. Over time, you open up, share your thoughts, secrets, and dreams, believing they have your best interests at heart. Then one day you find out they've used your trust for their own benefit, talking behind your back, exposing your secrets, or manipulating you for their gain. The pain of betrayal cuts deep, leaving you wondering how you didn't see it coming. The truth is, not everyone deserves your trust. That doesn't mean you should shut everyone out, but it does mean you should be careful. Words are easy to say, but actions reveal a person's true nature. A snake may have shiny scales, but it's still a snake. Think of trust like a locked door rather than an open gate. It doesn't mean keeping people away. It means letting them in only when they've earned it. If someone consistently breaks promises, makes excuses, or twists the truth, take it as a sign. Trust should be given based on proof, not promises. Warren Buffett once said, "Trust is like the air we breathe. When it's present, nobody notices. But when it's absent, everyone does." Once trust is broken, it's nearly impossible to fix. So guard it wisely. Observe people's actions, set firm boundaries, and surround yourself with those who prove they are honest and loyal. Trust isn't just a gift, it's your protection. You ignore red flags, we've all done it. Seen the warning signs, felt that gut feeling, yet convinced ourselves that things would get better. We ignore red flags because we want to believe in people, because we're afraid of losing a relationship, or because admitting the truth is painful. But ignoring red flags is like driving toward a collapsed bridge, hoping it's still intact. You're not just taking a risk, you're heading straight for disaster. Take Sarah, for example. She had a friend who constantly canceled plans last minute. At first, she made excuses for them, thinking they were just busy. But as the cancellations kept happening, with weak excuses piling up, she knew the truth. This friend simply didn't value her time. Yet, she kept hoping they'd change. The result? Disappointment, frustration, and a one-sided friendship that drained her energy. Ignoring red flags doesn't make you kind or loyal. It makes you vulnerable. Stoicism teaches us that real strength comes from seeing things as they are, not as we wish them to be. As Maya Angelou wisely said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Red flags aren't annoyances. They're warnings meant to protect you. If you wouldn't ignore a road sign that says, bridge out, why ignore warning signs in relationships? So, how do you stop ignoring red flags? Trust your instincts. That uneasy feeling is your mind telling you something is off. Listen to it. Watch actions, not words. People can say all the right things, but their behavior reveals their true character. Prioritize your peace. If a relationship constantly drains you, it's time to walk away. When you stop ignoring red flags, you protect yourself from heartache and create space for genuine, uplifting connections. You're afraid of confrontation. Nobody likes conflict. It's uncomfortable, stressful, and sometimes even scary. But avoiding confrontation doesn't make the problem go away. It makes it worse. Think of a small crack in a house's foundation. If left alone, it spreads, weakens the entire structure, and before you know it, everything you built starts to crumble. The same thing happens when you refuse to speak up. Take Lisa, for example. She has a coworker, Mark, who constantly takes credit for the team's ideas. It frustrates her, but she stays silent, afraid of causing tension. Each time she avoids speaking up, Mark grows bolder. Over time, Lisa feels invisible, undervalued, and stuck in a job she once loved. That's what happens when you fear confrontation. People notice, and they take advantage of it. But here's the truth. Confrontation isn't about fighting. It's about standing up for yourself with clarity and respect. Saying no, setting boundaries, and expressing your concerns doesn't make you difficult. It makes you strong. If someone truly respects you, they'll listen. If they don't, that's your cue to rethink their place in your life. Stoicism teaches us that true peace comes from living in alignment with our values. Winston Churchill once said, "Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. Courage is also what it takes to sit down and listen." Confrontation isn't just about speaking. It's about communicating with confidence while respecting both yourself and the other person. Think of confrontation like pulling weeds from a garden. It's not pleasant, but if you don't do it, those weeds will take over. The same applies to your life. Avoiding confrontation doesn't keep the peace. It just delays the problem. When you start standing up for yourself, you reclaim your power, your confidence, and your peace. You seek validation from others. Chasing approval from others is like running on a hamster wheel. You keep moving, but you're not getting anywhere. The more you rely on others to validate your worth, the more control you give away. People notice when you need their approval, and some will use it to manipulate you, keeping you stuck in a cycle of constantly proving yourself. But here's the truth. Your value isn't defined by what others think of you. Take Jane, for example. She's a hardworking employee who stays late, takes on extra work, and says yes to everything, all in the hopes of earning her boss's praise. But the compliments she craves are rare, and when they don't come, she starts doubting herself. What she doesn't realize is that she's letting someone else control her self-worth. You don't need anyone's permission to feel valuable. Your worth isn't measured by social media likes, compliments, or recognition from others. It comes from within, from your efforts, your resilience, and the goals you've achieved, no matter how big or small. Eleanor Roosevelt said it best: no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. So, what happens when you stop seeking validation? You take back control. When you finish a task, acknowledge it. When you face failure, see it as a lesson, not a judgment. And when people realize you no longer depend on their approval, they lose their influence over you. Imagine your life as a painting. If you let others validate you, it's like handing them the brush to paint over your masterpiece. But when you validate yourself, you take back the brush, the colors, the vision. That's the power of self-affirmation. You are already enough. Own it. You fear being alone. Loneliness can feel like an invisible force, pushing us to hold on to relationships, friendships, or situations that no longer serve us. It convinces us that being with anyone is better than being alone. But here's the hard truth: being with the wrong person is lonelier than being alone. Sitting across from someone who drains your energy, disrespects you, or makes you feel small is a far deeper loneliness than any quiet night by yourself. Take Emma, for example. She stayed in a relationship where her partner constantly chipped away at her self-esteem. Not because she was happy, but because she feared what life would be like without them. Over time, she felt smaller, exhausted, and trapped, unable to see that her fear of loneliness was keeping her in a situation far worse than solitude. But what if loneliness isn't something to fear? What if it's actually an opportunity? Instead of dreading time alone, use it to reconnect with yourself. Take a walk through nature, start that book you've been avoiding, or simply sit with a cup of tea and enjoy your own company. Being alone isn't isolation, it's self-care. Maya Angelou once said, "I don't trust anyone who doesn't love themselves but tells me they love me." When you learn to love yourself, you set the standard for how others should treat you. And when you stop fearing solitude, you stop settling for anything less than what you deserve. Independence isn't loneliness, it's freedom. It clears the emotional clutter, making space for genuine connections and self-growth. You are already whole, already enough. When you embrace yourself, the right people will enter your life, not to complete you, but to celebrate the strength you already have. You give too much. Without receiving, giving is a beautiful thing. It brings warmth and connection to life. But even the sun, as powerful as it is, needs to rest. If it shines without stopping, it burns out. The same is true for you. When you give too much without receiving anything in return, you don't just lose energy, you lose yourself. You may think constantly giving makes you a good person, but if you don't set limits, people will keep taking. They won't stop to consider your feelings, and one day you'll find yourself exhausted, wondering why no one appreciates you. Take David, for example. He was always there for others. Whether it was working overtime for coworkers, lending money without expecting it back, or saying yes to every favor, he never hesitated to help. At first, he thought he was building strong relationships. But as time passed, he noticed something. People rarely checked in on him. They didn't ask how he was doing, and they never said thank you. He wasn't just drained. He started doubting his own worth. The problem isn't generosity. It's giving without balance. If people take without giving back, that's a warning sign. Kindness doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. It means knowing when to say no and protecting your energy. Imagine your energy like a bank account. If you keep withdrawing without depositing, you'll have nothing left. You don't have to stop helping others, but you need to be mindful of who deserves it. Set boundaries, say no when needed, and focus on relationships where both sides give and receive. True kindness isn't about giving endlessly. It's about knowing your worth and making sure you're not left empty. Now that you understand why people take advantage of you, it's time to take back control. You can set boundaries, be more careful with trust, and stop relying on others for validation. You can speak up for yourself, recognize red flags, and walk away when necessary. Most importantly, you can embrace solitude and learn that your worth isn't defined by who is around you. People will always test your limits, but they can only succeed if you allow them to. Stand up for yourself, protect your time, and refuse to let anyone take you for granted. No one has the right to make you feel less than you are. You are not a victim. You are in charge of your own life. And when you start making choices that protect your happiness, you become truly unstoppable. If this message resonated with you, drop a comment below saying, "I own my power." Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe to the channel for more empowering content. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Your journey to confidence and self-respect starts today.